Nintendo, what are you doing? Seriously, what are you doing? You're releasing a new console and you think, oh, well, it's only about as powerful as our last console, but we're gonna just make everything more expensive. What are you doing? Very expensive. Nintendo announces they're raising prices of Switch 2 accessories. Well, Switch 2 on the Switch 2 accessories, I'll tell you what. Nintendo raises accessory prices amid tariff concerns. Why? Didn't Trump say that the whole tariff thing's on pause or just like a 10% across the board except for China? Miyamoto, what are you doing? What are you doing? I think now they're just kind of using this tariff thing as a way to just up the prices. Nintendo, seriously, like I love you and all that, but like your games are good, but your business practices fucking blow. Like, what are you doing? You're releasing a console that's not like a bit more powerful than the Switch, and you're expecting people to pay more for the price, more for the console itself, more for the games. You're making accessories even more expensive for what? Tariffs that aren't going to affect you? Do you not read the news? Read newspapers or watch the news? It's 10% across the board except for China. So you have nothing to worry about. You're just now being greedy. Nintendo's officially confirmed that while the Nintendo 2 console will retain its current listed price of $450, for some reason prices for many of the accessories are going up, much as much as 10%. 10% for the big guy. Apparently, this is a move that the company is, of course, attributing to price adjustments in response to those recently announced pesky U.S. tariffs. In reality, with the pause on tariffs, this strikes me as more as fear-mongering greed out of Nintendo, not so different than how Sony recently announced that they were raising PS Plus prices for Canada. If and when the tariffs hit, they can adjust prices accordingly. Getting ahead of something that may or may not happen, though, it's just on board with this business model. Yeah. Despite dodging the brunt of that reported 145% tariff increase announced by Trump administration earlier this month, Nintendo isn't emerging unscathed either. The console itself remains unaffected for now, but peripheral prices are climbing between 5% and some upwards of 10%, with the most substantial hiking hitting the new Switch 2 camera and Switch 2 dock. So, why is a controller this much? What is so great about the controller to where it has to be $80 fucking dollars and close to $90 for a controller? Like, does it play you music? Does it serve you lunch while you're playing? Does it listen to your problems and give you feedback? What is so special about this controller that you need to make it almost 90 fucking dollars, Nintendo? Like, what the fuck? A carrying case for $31, a dock for 120, Switch 2 camera, it's almost $60. These increases come just days before the North American pre-orders reopen on April 24th, following an earlier delay due to somewhat chaotic rollout of tariffs. Of tariff news on April 9th, the same day which the Switch 2 was officially unveiled. What a wild ride it's been already! Feels like a dangerous Donkey Kong. I remember. God, I love those. Remember in Donkey Kong Country, those freaking minecart freaking levels? Love them. But why it matters. Yes, Nintendo is raising the prices on everything and increasing everything by at least 10%. But here's why that's a good thing, I would hear other people say. Why it matters. Nintendo's decision to raise prices appears to be, at least on the surface, a preemptive move to in anticipation of future rising costs. Though the Trump administration has paused most of the tariffs for 90 days, the pause doesn't necessarily directly apply to gaming consoles or related accessories. So there's still a bit of uncertainty around these, and the threat of significant cost increases looms large. Donkey Kong Bonanza. For now, the Switch console remains $450. But this grace period may be short-lived. Nintendo themselves have warned that Nintendo Switch 2 accessories will experience price adjustments from those announced on April 2nd due to the changes in market conditions. No, you're just being fucking greedy. Nintendo, do better. Okay, the reason why people stick with you is because you've been around for like 40 fucking years. And you've made games that have stuck around for that long. You know, Mario, Zelda, Donkey Kong, Kirby, Star Fox, Metroid. And that's the reason people tolerate you, is because you make good games. But people will have no problem walking away from Nintendo if you keep doing this shit. Game chat and USB-C workarounds. Nintendo, the Switch 2 camera, a key component of the Nintendo's new Game Chat social gaming feature. $54. The jump could limit adoption of one of the console's biggest new features. Nintendo says third-party USB-C webcams will be supported, but even some of those may also see price hikes depending on manufacturing sources. Nintendow's move is part of a seemingly much wider industry scramble to deal with rapidly shifting U.S. trade policies. But again, like Sony, it's not limited to just the U.S. Canada is also being impacted. So it makes me wonder how much truth is behind the supposed tariff excuse. There really is. It's getting ridiculous that the price of the full Pro controllers are more expensive than PS5 controllers. I think this whole tariff thing is an excuse. Yeah. Yeah. Even without all the price stuff, the Switch 2 is easily a wait and see purchase. Between my OG Switch and PS5, I will happily wait a few years on this. I'm definitely not supporting this now. Yeah. There's no reason. Like, again, the console and everything, it's only a slightly more powerful version of the Switch. So why is everything getting up, you know? And they're like, oh, the tariffs. Tariffs have been put on pause for 90 days. Not to mention, they said that it would just be a sweeping 10% for all the countries except for China, which grows more and more the more they refuse. So that's why people are like, 400%. They're not going to withstand 400%. That'll get them to bend the knee real freaking fast. But Japan is over this for no reason, which is why people were saying it's just an excuse to raise it. Because Nintendo consumed, like the hardcore Nintendo fanboys. Let me show you a precise kind of example of what they're like. So hang on. Here are this is a perfect representation of Nintendo fanboys, hardcore Nintendo fanboys. Because there are people who will look at the price and they will still shell out everything they have just to purchase and to consume. So the moon is actually a very good representation of hardcore Nintendo fanboys. Because the consumer must consume. So while normal people are like, Yeah, no, I'm the consumer, the hardcore ones are like, you know, like the freaking meme of the soy jack and the, you know, back and forth, like, oh, must consume this, you know, consume product. A perfect representation, and considering it's from Majora's Mask, which is Nintendo, so perfect. They know their fans well, but but it's there's no reason for them to be concerned at all, unless they want to go the route of China, unless they want to be like China and just have a, you know, a pissing contest with the president. I mean, if that's the route they want to go, then yeah, they would have to, you know, raise things. But no, it's going to be like a pretty much it's a pause. I think they said a sweeping 10% for all countries except for China, in which it's just going to keep growing. So they're raising prices essentially for no reason. For no reason. And you can't say because of production costs, because again, the console is only slightly more powerful than the Switch. You know, you see difference in gaming, the processing power and stuff like that. You know, you look at, say, the Nintendo to Super Nintendo, huge gap from what the Nintendo could do to what Super Nintendo could do. You look at the Super Nintendo to the Nintendo 64, major. You go from like side scrolling or you know, sprites to full 3D models, you know, and then you go from the Nintendo 64 to the GameCube, and you're like, holy crap, is this even Nintendo still? And then you go from the GameCube to the Wii, which, while it can still play those older games, it is very visibly very nice to look at. Then you have the Wii U. Same thing. Very nice. Then you have the Switch from the Wii U. And it's like, wow, things are really up and aren't they? But now we're at the Switch and we have the Switch 2. And it's like this like Breath of the Wild and Tears of the Kingdom are going to run slightly better, like the way they should have been the whole time. So they're overcharging all this crap for a console that's only slightly more powerful than the previous. That's not how this works. That's not how any of this works. Again, why does a thing of control, a controller, have to be $90? That's fucking ridiculous. $90 for a controller. What? Nintendo, do better. Apart from your hardcore fanboys who'll just constantly, all the time for you, most people are going to be turned off by this crap, and they're going to be like, why would I waste my money on a Switch 2? Why would I waste my money? So, Nintendo, you've got some amazing games and amazing franchises, and it would be a real shame if your company started crumbling because of your shady and crappy business practices. That's all I'm going to say. Anyway, that's going to do for me. You guys know the drill. I'll see you guys later. Bye, guys.